Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We'll wait a few moments for people to log in. You know the routine. This is it. Our last go around. The last night of covering, well, actually tomorrow night we're going to cover a little bit of material. We're going to talk about distracted driving, which is a very popular topic in driver's ed, and very important for you to have a basic understanding of what the state requires when you're behind the wheel of the car, what you can and cannot do when it comes to being distracted. But tonight we will be focusing on highway driving and also sharing the road with tractor trailers, motorcycles, pedestrians, bicycles. We're also going to talk a little bit about animals out on the road. So good evening, everybody. I think we almost have, 5 people here, I see. We're just lagging a little bit behind. I'll be mentioning this at the very end of tonight's class, but the next time that we drive, I know some of you have finished, but the next time that we drive, I need your textbooks. If you've finished, and I think there are probably 2 or 3 of you that are already done, you're going to have to meet up with me on Friday or Saturday to hand in your textbook. And if you pass the final tomorrow and have all your homework in, you get your driver's ed certificate. So you'll be able to start the process of getting your license, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. So we're trying to wrap everything up, and I think that some of you know that you're lagging a little bit behind in giving me material, so I'm not going to stress it more than when I get it, I get it. And when I get it, then you'll get your certificate. So that's it. But I appreciate you signing in every night to have this class and to, for the most part, most of you, to do your reading and do your homework. I know it's been a trying time, this remote. But this is the best we can do, and I hope that it is proved to be enjoyable somewhat and to be somewhat educational. So hopefully that your driving skill has risen up since the time that we started, and I honestly believe that when you go for the state, if you finish this class tomorrow with a good score in the final, and for most of you driving as you have been with me, I feel pretty confident that you'll do pretty well with your state driving test. So let's get to tonight's topic of highway driving. So let me get out of, and I did figure out last night what happened with the mic is that the temperature is so cold, and I'm off in the side of my home in a kind of a catch-all room that's got a player piano right here. I've got an exercise bike and just stuff all around. It's still kind of cold in here, so it's pretty dry. So by standing up and walking around while I teach, I think I'm getting static electricity. So when I touch the mic, I think it shorts out. So I have to go around the desktop here and unplug it and get the mic. Because I like this mic a lot better than the mic that's through the computer. I have a feeling that I've got to really talk really loud to get to the computer mic. So I like this one. But if you ever have an issue because I short this out like last night, I could kind of tell that there wasn't any sound because I wasn't getting the volume. So please let me know if you have any issues with what you hear. So let's talk a little bit about highway. One of the last driving lessons that we do will be the highway drive. And what we usually do is we practice merging, we practice going to the Lee Circle. Sometimes, depending on the day, we may, and depending on the driver, we may get down to the Portsmouth Circle. But it's important to understand that merging on a highway is really no different than making a lane change. So if you feel pretty comfortable with lane changes, then merging, for the most part, is going to be pretty easy. The only difficult part is when traffic is extremely heavy and no one is letting you out onto the roadway. And we'll talk a little bit in a moment about what to do with running out of ramp space and no one letting us in. Now, for some reason, the state, and actually most other states, we use different terminology about expressway driving. So we're going to take a look at what makes these roadways the same and what actually make them a little bit different. So if we take a look at some of the terminology that's out there, and we have 5 different terms that relate to speeds relatively above 45 miles per hour. When you're hitting 45, 50 miles per hour, I see that this is going to be an echo. Hold on here. Now can you hear me? Whoop. Now can you hear me? There we go. I don't want anything to cause an echo. So the 5 terms that I want you to be familiar with is interstate highway, toll roads, thoroughways, turnpikes, and freeways. And down below, I've indicated what makes them different and the 3 characteristics that we will find that will kind of separate some of these is the high speeds that you're able to drive, how many lanes that you actually have, and on some, it will cost you money to drive on. So these 3 things, when you get up onto a roadway, you should be somewhat aware of what you're getting yourself into. Am I going to be in with high volume of traffic? Am I going to be going 65, 70 miles per hour? Do I have 5 lanes? Do I have to pay a fee up ahead of $2? All this stuff is really important when you get up onto a highway. So the 2 main reasons why we have built highways, and we did this the first week, if you can remember back, the first week of Driver's Ed, we talked about the HTS, the Highway Transportation System. And back in the 50s, President Eisenhower developed the Interstate System, and we know that the Interstate System is a grid that runs north, south, east, and west. So the whole main goal of the HTS was to get you where you want to go sooner. So that's why we have the faster speeds, and you have a better chance of getting to where you want to go safely because we have less intersections. We don't have pedestrians. We don't have many places where people can get onto these highways. We call them on-ramps or interchanges. So it really is, once you're on, it's staying in your lane, maintaining position and speed, and off you go to the races to get to where you want to go. But the problem, okay, is that we feel that we can multitask. And this is what we'll talk about tomorrow. So when you're up on the highway, the mind will wander. It will drift. We start thinking about checking our phone, maybe sending out a text. Maybe we're more concerned about finding a different CD to play or a different station to play. We carry on conversations more than we do maybe than when we're in town. So we start to do things that we normally don't do, but because of the high speed, we may find ourselves in a precarious situation. So there really is no room for error. And when we talk about high volume traffic, you could totally be surrounded by vehicles on a highway. You could have a car to the left, to the right, to the rear, someone in front of you. And depending on what they do, whether they speed up or slow down, they're going to start to get really pretty close to where you're traveling, and it can get a little scary. Now, this you do need to know for tomorrow. And by the way, every subject that we've talked about will have questions. So when you study for tomorrow, to the test tomorrow, take a look at the whole manual. Take a look at all your notes because there will be questions on everything that we covered. Tonight, we'll probably have at least 10 questions, if not more. So out of the 100, 10% is probably coming from tonight. So we got a lot of stuff to go over. So here's one. Controlled access and limited access highway basically just mean on-ramps and off-ramps. Okay, so two different terms really mean the same thing, that you can get on, you can get off. And think about it. Controlled and limited basically means the same thing. It basically means that maybe every 5-6 miles, there's going to be a different point on the road that's going to allow you to get off the highway or to get on. A lot different than what we find in neighborhoods and downtown areas where there's a street like every 200, 300, 500 feet. So you could go miles. Now, interchanges, basically what we have, and we have this in this picture, is an intersection of two highways at different levels. And actually in this picture, we have multiple interchanges. We probably have at least 6 different routes, and we have layers on top of layers of roadway. So you have to be listening to your GPS, or you have to be somewhat familiar with the exit number that you want, because if you take a right when you should take a left, you're going to be heading in a different direction that you want. So you do want to make sure that you're paying attention on a highway when it comes close to where you want to get off. Mile markers, and you won't see this in the manual, you probably didn't even read about it in the textbook, but I think it's important for you to understand about mile markers. Mile markers are helpful when you break down. So on this particular highway right here, if you were to call 911 and say that you had a problem with your vehicle, it's starting to overheat, or maybe it's catching fire and they want to know where you're located, you probably won't be able to tell them. Okay, you just know that you're on a highway. You might be able to name the highway, but you won't be able to name your location. Mile markers are at a distance of 0.2 of a mile. So you don't have to walk forward or go backwards too far before you'll see one of these green mile markers. Let's just use the Spalding Turnpike, which is going to Portsmouth. Portsmouth is the furthest southern part of the Spalding, so we will see mile marker 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then your 1 mile marker. So if you break down, you would say I'm at mile 1.2, and they're going to know exactly where to find you. Now, the other thing that I want you to write down in your notes, because this is just something that has changed within the last month or two. Maine has already done this. Massachusetts is doing it right as we speak, is that they're changing their exit numbers. In New Hampshire, your exit numbers, when you head north, they go higher. When you go south, they go lower. When you go west, they go lower. When you head east, they go higher. What they're doing now is every state is adopting the federal guidelines for off-ramps. So this is what I want you to write down. Every exit now will be according to the mile marker. So let's use Maine as an example. Maine has their first exit from the Spalding, the Portsmouth traffic circle, up around Kittery. So that would probably be exit number 1, the first mile. When you first go over the border, I think you can get to the outlet. So it's going to be within a mile or two. So it's going to be exit 1 or 2. The next one will be York. That's going to probably be exit number 5. So you're going to skip. So you got exit 1, and then it's exit 5. Then the next exit could be 12. The next exit after that could be 19. So don't think that you're looking for a chronological number to go up. So they've just changed that. Massachusetts it was on the news, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, that they're changing the exit numbers right now. So if you're familiar with Massachusetts and you're always took exit 34, it may not be that number anymore. It'll be a different number. So one of the most difficult things to do is to pass. Passing on the highway is really a lane change. And this is what I want you to write down. When you pass someone, you put your signal on, you check your rearview mirror, check your side mirror, check over your shoulder, just like you do at a lane change. Make sure there's nobody passing you. You go around the person that you're passing, bring up your speed by at least 10 miles per hour over the speed that they're going. If you're going only a little bit faster than they are, it will take you forever to get by them. So try to go at least 10 miles per hour. And when you see that person's headlights in your rearview mirror, that is the indicator you put your signal on and you move back into your original lane. Now, the most dangerous place to pass is not on a highway, but it is on a rural roadway with highway speeds. And that is two-way traffic. That gets to be more complicated because you're not only passing a vehicle, but you have traffic coming at you head on. That could be a real issue. So let's take a look at this video about how to pass.
Another common maneuver is passing in the lane of oncoming traffic. It's common, but it's not always safe and must be done cautiously.
It becomes a danger because of the judgment factors that we don't judge distance very well.
The problem is twofold. It's hard to tell how long it's going to take to accelerate to get past the car we're trying to pass. And it's hard to tell how close the car is in the oncoming lane and how fast that car is traveling towards you.
It's risky business because drivers have a hard time judging that dynamic movement.
If you do plan to pass, keep this in mind. An oncoming car or truck does not seem to be traveling as fast as it really is. Here's a good rule of thumb. If an oncoming car is far enough away that it does not seem to be moving at all, then it is generally far enough away for you to safely make your pass. But if you can see that oncoming car is moving, then it's a different story.
If you go out there to look and you see that car looks like it's moving towards you, you better tuck back in again because you're probably too close.
There are other times when it is not safe to pass. If your view is blocked by either a hill or a curve, don't pass. Assume there is an oncoming car or truck just out of sight. Passing requires extreme caution because of the threat of having a head-on collision.
When you talk about having a head-on collision, you're talking about doubling and tripling the forces, and maybe the forces even quadruple, depends on your speed and the nature of the car coming towards you.
Also, avoid passing at intersections. This includes intersecting roads, railroad crossings, even entrances to shopping centers. If you are on a two-lane road, pass only on the left. It is dangerous and usually illegal to pass on the right. The exception is when a car ahead of you signals to make a left turn. If the car in front of you is stopped to make a left-hand turn, never pass to his left. Instead, you may pass to his right on the shoulder. In any event, experts urge drivers to not take passing lightly. It's a common driving task that requires utmost caution. This is Jim Angelo.
So you can see that passing does take a little bit of extra care on some of these back roads. But if you just follow these steps, it's not as nerve-wracking. And I would highly recommend that you go out with your parents and try to find a place, preferably probably a real highway, and pass somebody. Because you don't want to have to do it for the first time when you're all by yourself. And it is a little bit more complicated on some of these back roads. Okay, what are some other special features of highways that we should be aware of? First, reflectors. Why are there reflectors on a highway? Well, basically because as night falls, as weather gets bad, you're not going to be able to see the lines. Your white edge line, or what we call the fog line, you're not going to see the yellow line off to the left. So the reflectors on the side of the road match the color of the line. So we see yellow reflectors to the left, we see white reflectors to the right. So when you don't, and they're right near the edge of the pavement. So that's really warning you, do not get too close to the reflectors. You're getting very close to the edge of the pavement. Now, what happens when you get close to a bridge or a guardrail? The reflector will change color. It will no longer be white or yellow. It will be red at the beginning of a guardrail or a bridge and green at the end. So red is telling us not to do something or to stop. It's telling us don't go off the edge of the road because there's something that's immovable. Green is telling you you're at the end of this situation, at the end of this problem. And if you have to leave the pavement, you can. There's going to be dirt. It's not going to be something that's going to ruin your car or, hurt you. Rumble strips are there to help us when we're fatigued, when we're drifting, when we're not paying attention. We can sometimes have rumble strips to the left. Also, when we're drifting too far to oncoming cars, right at the center of the road. Easy Pass. It's used in all the states now, so we attach it to our windshield. We no longer have to hand tokens or money, although there is still one single toll booth at most toll booths now that will take money. But for the most part, people are relying on Easy Pass, so the fluid movement of traffic is going to help us get us to where we want to go, rather than waiting for people to get out their wallet, give a $5 for a $2 toll, price, and getting the change. That's what backs up traffic, and that's why we've gone to Easy Pass, and especially the fast Easy Pass. So there's the mile marker that I was talking about. There's the Easy Pass. It's a purple sign. Full service, that's the one person. Actually, you can't use that. There's a red X. Remember, red X is telling you not to do something, whether it be reversible lanes or at toll booths. So do not get into that lane expecting that you're going to give your token money to the individual. You're going to have to, and write this down. If you don't have Easy Pass, still you can go through. They're going to bill you according to what your registration address is. So in a lot of states, they're doing away with collecting money, and they're going to just bill you at the end of the month. So there's a computer system that reads the license plate. And there's the rumble strips that we were talking about. Watch out for signs indicating, by paying by mail, it's a lot more expensive. Notice it's $4.60 rather than $3. The thing that I wanted to mention here, and I went over the last slide pretty fast, is that bridges cost a lot of money. I don't know if you've ever been through New York City heading south towards New Jersey or any state south of New York, but the George Washington Bridge to go over one way, I believe, is like $16 or $20 one way. It's a pretty hefty expense. So can you imagine if you have to take that bridge into the town, into the city every day for work? You're paying between $30 and $40 just on tolls, let alone what you're paying for gas. It's pretty expensive. That's why they're trying to get you to take public transportation. So let's talk about what everybody fears about the highway. So let's talk about getting on. Getting off is easy. That's the simple part. But what happens when you take a ramp and you're halfway up the ramp and you're looking in your mirrors or looking over your shoulder and you see a lot of cars, you see tractor trailers, and all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. Yes, you can. But the key is here is the second bullet, all right? Keep up your speed while you're looking for a hole. Remember, a hole is bigger than a gap. Okay, gap is small. Hole is between a cluster of cars. Do not stop unless necessary at the end of the ramp. If you keep up your speed, so write this down in your notes. If you keep up your speed, someone will probably let you in. I will guarantee that if you get to the end of the ramp and you're only going 30, 35 miles per hour, nobody wants a slowpoke in front of them. They're going to say the person behind you will help you out. I'm not going to do it. But if you're going 50, 55 in a 55 area, it doesn't take much for someone to let go of their accelerator, increase a little bit of following distance for you to squeeze into that hole. Okay, so allow traffic to make room for you. And if they don't, slow down. And if they don't allow you to get in, then slow down or stop. But I would probably say 8 out of 10 times, if you keep up your speed, you're going to blend right in with everybody, and it's not going to be a problem. 2 out of 10 times, it's going to be nerve-wracking. It's going to be maybe going to the soft shoulder a little bit. it's just not going to be good. But with practice, I feel confident that you'll be able to do it. Now, blended lanes. Be careful of blended lanes. What blended lanes means, if you take a look at a underpass, and underneath the underpass, there's a lane of traffic that's coming into the flow of traffic, and as you go underneath the bridge is usually an exit. So right underneath the bridge, exactly right underneath the bridge, that area, you have two lanes of traffic doing opposite things, meaning that you have one lane trying to speed up to get into traffic, and then you've got maybe what you're trying to do is to get off the highway to slow down and take the exit. So there's going to probably be about 100 to 200 foot part of the pavement where a car's going to do both things. Some are getting on, some are getting off. So it's almost like a zipper. One goes in, one goes off, one goes in, one goes off. That's a blended lane. All right, so that's what a blended lane is. So how do you get onto the highway? Always speed up on a ramp. The minute you go up on the ramp, the minute you start going from one road to the highway, you're getting up to around 35 to 40 miles per hour. Right before you get to the yield sign, you're checking your rearview mirror to see where is my opening, where is my hole. So you're checking your rear mirror first, then you're checking your side mirror, then you're checking your shoulder, then you're using your signal to merge out. And just like a plane on a runway is picking up speed, taxing and then picking up speed on the runway. So when he's at the end of the runway, he's able to get up off the ground. When you're at the end of the ramp, you're at highway speed and you're ready to blend right in with traffic. That is the way that you merge out into a highway. All right. And that's usually around our 7th or 8th time out driving. And I think I've been doing quite a few of highway lessons. So let's take a look at how to merge.
It can be a high anxiety situation. You're trying to enter the freeway. Cars on the freeway are whizzing by. You're trying to keep an eye on the cars in front of you. Drivers in the cars behind you are eager for their chance to merge. It can be chaotic, and you're the one at the gate.
Actually, a merge is probably one of your highest risk maneuvers that you do as a driver.
Dr. Terry Klein with Eastern Kentucky University is a leading authority on driving safety and an expert on traffic rules.
It's really a rather tricky maneuver because what we're asking you to do as a driver is pay attention to both the things happening in front of you, the things happening behind you, and the things happening 2 lanes to your left or 2 lanes to your right.
Dr. Klein says this complicates things because as human beings, we can really pay strict attention to only one thing at a time. So as tense as it may be, you've got to learn how to merge if you want to enter a freeway.
The bottom line is that you have to prepare for a merge sooner.
Dr. Klein says to prepare for a merge well before you're actually ready to merge. Identify a gap between cars on the freeway where you can merge. Then, continue increasing your speed until you reach the gap you selected. Dr. Klein says instead of increasing speed, drivers have a tendency to actually slow down before merging. A big mistake.
You have cars behind you coming up, they're trying to enter speed themselves, so you could cause a chain reaction type collision behind you as well.
Dr. Klein says drivers tend to minimize the dangers in merging, and that there are actually more crashes that happen during merging than during passing.
Once on the freeway, adjust your speed to keep a cushion of space around your car.
The closer you get to a car around you, the more they drive you and the less you driving yourself. You become their puppet. They brake, you brake. They speed up, you speed up. They stop suddenly, you stop suddenly.
Finally, once you've merged and adjusted your speed, you probably will change lanes at some point. Some quick pointers. Look around you for a large enough space to move into. Use your mirrors. Turn your head to look quickly to the side before changing lanes. Then make your lane change. Changing lanes, keeping space around your car, and merging. Each is a critical task in our driving experience.
If you go to Dover Point for your driver's test, it's a guarantee that they'll be taking you onto the highway. I'd probably say Like 90% of the time, they're actually taking you onto the highway. So just follow these steps and you shouldn't have any issues. Try to maintain speed. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. I had someone that went last week for their driver's test, and I guess she got into trouble because she was only going 50 in a 55, and they did not like it. So I would go as much to needle perfect as you possibly can. So let's talk about getting off, which is the easy part. Just know which ramp you're taking. Listen for directions. If they say exit, 5, exit 6, use your directional before you get there. They'll give people an idea that you're getting off the highway. Keep up your speed until you get to the ramp. Don't slow down on the main portion of the highway. And then at the bottom of the ramp, you're going to move to the right or move to the left, depending on which way you're going to be turning. Now, if you're turning right, there's a good chance you're going to have a yield sign at the bottom. If you're going to be turning left, there's going to probably be a stop sign. So plan accordingly. A yield sign, you can go a little bit faster at the bottom. As long as you're making your checks, you should be able to blend out into traffic. But just don't come to the stop sign with too much of a head of speed and have the car come to a screeching halt and pitching too much forward, especially on your driving test. So what can we do? What are some of the things that we should be aware of? Try to always be alert. Don't try to fall into that multitasking thing that we talked about earlier. I know sometimes if you're on a highway for over an hour, it does get boring. But stay focused. Stay focused. Give people plenty of room when passing. So if you know someone's passing, you may want to brake to give them a place to come in front of you. Don't speed up. Don't be that aggressive driver. Don't get too close to those. You want your 4-second following distance on a highway. Use your turn signals whenever you get off the highway. Make a lane change or do a pass. Keep your speed within that 5 or 10, miles per hour that we talked about. Up 5, down 5. Be in the best lane, which is usually the middle. Like I like the picture of this car. That's the lane I like to drive in, just in the third lane, because it gives me an opportunity to use the left lane for passing, and it also allows me to move to the right to get ready when I want to get off the highway. Don't stop on a highway unless it's absolutely necessary. And then if you are feeling tired, you should be looking for a place to pull over. Be careful of what you follow, too. Here's a picture of someone that was carrying a mattress, and they did not have it tied down, and it flew off. And what's your first reaction when you see something come to you? Is to jerk the wheel. And if you jerk the wheel, you could be going in the lane of somebody that's coming up right beside you. It looks like here that it actually maybe have gone through somebody's windshield. And notice it says fatal crash, so we know that someone did pass away. Pretty sad to think that the way you lost your life is because a mattress hit you while you were driving. So always be aware of things that could be coming off vehicles. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. Let's talk about the traffic circle in Lee. The difference between a circle and a roundabout is the circumference of the circle and the speed that you're able to go around. What they're trying to do now, and especially in the state of New Hampshire, is they're introducing more roundabouts and circles because they don't have to put up a light. And it does get the flow of traffic constantly moving. People have an equal chance of getting in and getting out. In Europe, it's very common. You can tell by the direction they're going counterclockwise. They're going clockwise. We go counterclockwise when we come to a circle. But what I wanted to show you with this picture here is that stay in the lane that you need to be in order to get to where you want to go. So the thing to remember about the Lee circle is that if you want to get off at the first or second exit, you want to be in the right lane. If you want to get off at the second, third, or go all the way around, you need to approach the circle from the left lane. Okay, that's important to know. Okay, use your directional to get out of a circle, but you do not need your directional to get into the circle. So let's take a look, and I don't have any sound for this. So here's the Lee circle. Let's take a look, and I'll provide commentary here. The Lee circle. So the biggest difference, as we said, is a roundabout is smaller in diameter and slower speeds. So Lee is a roundabout or rotary, and Portsmouth is a circle. Okay, and it's a little bit bigger, a little bit easier, I feel, to get in and out of. Driving through a tunnel. I wanted to include this, even though we do not have a tunnel in New Hampshire, but we live so close to Boston. Within an hour's time, we can be down around the Boston Garden where the Celtics and the Bruins play, and we may have to go through a tunnel. So there are a couple things that I want to mention. Depending on the time of day, don't wear sunglasses going into the tunnel. It's going to be dark. Even though there are lights there, don't have your sunglasses on, and also have your headlights on. It's going to help illuminate the road a little bit better. And it gives you kind of an orange tint to the lights that are used in a tunnel. Even in a tunnel, there may be a chance for you to leave the tunnel, meaning there's an exit. Isn't that wild? In the Boston tunnels, you can actually take an exit. It just doesn't put you in at the beginning and throws you through the tunnel until you get out. You're just going straight. Not in Massachusetts. You can get out. Use your mirrors more in a tunnel, side mirrors, because the road gets a little bit more narrow, and you may get a little bit more claustrophobic having cars on either side of you, knowing that there is no breakdown lane, there's no place to go. Oh, the audio. I apologize. The audio for the circle, I did not hit the button to play over the video. So I'll just back up. With the Lee circle, Lee roundabout, just know which lane that you need to be in. A right lane for the first or second exit, a left lane for the second, third, or fourth exit. Be careful at yield signs where there's a conflict of where cars are coming in from. So, yeah, I apologize. I forgot that I had set it up where I was going to talk over the video. I had my little box where I was going to punch in my video or my live view with talking over the video, but apparently it didn't work. So If we have more time, I'll come back to it at the very end tonight. So let's take a look at the tunnel in Massachusetts. I did the Boston Tunnel. Same thing. I want to talk above this, so let's see if this works. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now. So I believe there's an exit coming up on the right. So hopefully, it looks like my mic is working. So hopefully that you can hear me. Oh, can you hear me? It's not working. I think that happened too. For whatever reason, the mic is not working when I do an overlay tonight. So more mic problems. But we covered everything right here in the breakdown of what to do before we saw the video. All right, let's get to sharing the road with large trucks. Tractor trailers, when you're on the highway, will be by far the scariest thing that you're going to have to deal with. And we're going to take a video look at what are some of the complications that a truck driver may have. As much as you don't like being around large trucks have their issues too. So you need to understand that it's a two-way thing. So don't get too angry at them. They're really trying to do the best that they can to drive safely. So let's take a look at the truck video.
Hello, my name is Ralph Garcia, and I'm a professional truck driver with 37 years experience on the road with 3.5 million miles of safe driving. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to hear firsthand from professional truck drivers how to maneuver around a truck safely. First of all, let's go over some tips before we get started. Never cut in front of a truck. Give us enough room. Second, stay out of the blind spots around a truck. Third, have enough cushion behind us. Don't follow too closely so you have enough time to stop. Also, trucks make wide right turns. Give us enough space to do those turns. And if you break down on the side of the road, make sure you get far enough off the road that you're safe. And last but not least, distracted driving. Don't text and drive. Stay off that phone. Let's get started, and we're going to hear from our drivers.
Hey, I'm Alan Boyd. I've been driving trucks professionally for 35 years. I know I don't look that old, right? Scratch that, don't answer. What I've learned is the right side of this truck is the largest blind spot we have. This blind spot can actually go over 3 lanes wide. I can lose a whole tractor and trailer. So it's very important when you get in this position to get yourself out as quickly as you can. Did you know that 35% of all car-truck related accidents, the car is in the truck driver's blind spot? Well, it's true. And how do you know that you're in the blind spot? In this position, it's very important to make sure you can see that driver's smiling face in the mirror. If you can't see that truck driver smiling face in the mirror, he can't see you. Remember, when that truck moves over to the left lane to let you off a ramp, that brings you out into this position, and that's okay. Make sure you slow down a little bit, allow the truck time to get back in front of you. That allows everybody to pass on the left where it's a lot safer. Remember to make good decisions when you drive.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Lewis. I've been a professional truck driver for 28 years, have 1.4 million safe driving miles. And today I want to talk to you about the rear blind spot of a tractor trailer. First of all, I want to tell you where I do not want you. I don't want you tailgating me. You know why? If I make a sudden stop, guess where you may end up? It's right here. I don't want you there. One other thing, I'm a big guy and I drive a pretty big truck. If there's an object in the road, I can straddle it. And if I straddle it and it comes out and you don't see it, you will not have time to react. Think about that object as an alligator. You don't want that alligator to bite you. So I want you 20 car lengths behind me. where I can see you. If you can see my mirror, you're in a safe spot where I can see you and you can see me. And that's where I want you at.
Hello, my name's Don Biggerstaff. I'm a professional truck driver. I've been in the industry for 37 years and have accumulated 1.4 million safe driving miles. And I'm here today to tell you about one of the blind spots that we have on the truck. The left side, the driver's side. We see you best out of this side from our vantage point in the truck. And this is the side that we want you to pass us on. But I need to make it clear, we do have a small blind spot located about where this car is, right behind the driver's seat in the truck. If you're in this position, we could lose you in our mirrors and not see you. So if you find yourself in this spot beside the truck, we want you to safely maneuver on around us. That keeps us safer and you safer. And really, that's what the Share the Road program is all about.
This is the front end of the truck. The worst thing you could do is cut in front of a truck. Rule of thumb, look in your rear view mirror, and when you can see the whole truck in that mirror, that's the time to come over. That usually puts you 10 car lengths in front of our vehicle. Your car usually weighs 4,000 pounds, and fully loaded, this semi could weigh up to 80,000 pounds. And going 60 miles an hour, it could take the length of a football field and 2 end zones to stop.
So what you're telling me, Ralph, then is that if I'm driving a 4,000 pound car, that'd be 20 times my weight.
That's right.
That'd be like a 200-pound wrestler wrestling a man weighing 4,000 pounds.
Exactly, kind of like me wrestling you.
As a professional driver, I use every means possible to see out of my vehicle. Of course, I don't have the luxury of looking in a rearview mirror like you do in a car, or throwing my arm over the seat and looking at the back windshield. I have to use the tools that's been given me, my windshields and my mirrors, to see what I need to see. That's why this front windshield is so important. It's like my big screen television. It allows me to see what's going on out in front of me. 2 other important tools that I have are my mirrors on each side, outside of the truck. I have my right mirror, which allows me to see a narrow path down the right side of my trailer. However, not 2, 3, and 4 lanes over. The mirror on my left-hand side, with head movement, I can see better out of that one, which is the side we want you to pass us on. No matter what I'm doing, I have to focus on my driving. And that's what we want you to do. Because we all stay focused on the highway, it'll be a much safer place for all of us.
Distracted driving is just as dangerous as drunk driving. Distractions in your car could be eating, drinking, could be talking to someone, and most common ones are on your phone or texting. Did you know if you travel 60 miles per hour for 6 seconds distracted, that you have actually went the length of a football field? What we want you to do is concentrate on your job, and that's driving.
You know, we had a lot of fun doing this video, and I hope you got the understanding that we're very proud of our record and we're very passionate about safety. And we've interjected some humor to make it fun. However, when you're driving, there is one place that you absolutely must keep your focus, and that's in a construction zone. You know, a construction zone is simply a temporary inconvenience for a major improvement. You know, those guys that are working on that road are working on that road for one reason, and that's to make the highway safer. There's a couple things you need to remember when you're going into a construction zone. Number one, always obey the speed limit. That speed limit is set in place for everybody's safety. Also, the solid white lines are there so that nobody crosses that solid white line. It's very important never to tailgate, and especially not in a construction zone. Because in construction zones, things happen quickly. And the last thing you want is to run into the back of somebody because something happened in front of them. Remember, every one of those construction workers are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and they all want the same thing that you and I do. And no matter who you are, whether you drive a truck, drive a car, or work in that construction zone, everybody's goal is to make the most important trip, the trip home, safely.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the characteristics that they were talking about with dealing with large trucks. The first thing is their length and their weight. So in your notes, I want you to write down that a large tractor trailer vehicle is going to take much longer to stop and to bring up their speed. So if we know this, we should be able to adapt what we're doing behind the wheel of the car. You have to think like a truck driver when you're around a truck driver. This is why it's so important to know their characteristics. The other thing that they mention is the no-zone areas. These no-zone areas are blind spots, but what I want you to write down in your notes is that no zones are really meaning no traveling for any length of time in those areas. So don't linger in a blind spot area. So no zones, no traveling for long periods of time. And remember that the turns that they make in the city will always be wide. When I've taken you out to work on perpendicular parking, if you remember from the video and from when we've gone out and we've worked on this driving skill, I've always had you way over to the right, always over to the left, to make a right turn into a perpendicular parking space, because in essence, we're a lot like a large tractor trailer trying to maneuver in a very tight area. So the wider our turn that we make going to the right, the easier it is for us to maneuver the vehicle where we want it to actually be traveling. So that's important. Okay, motorcycles. Even though we're in the middle of winter, motorcycles do create a little bit of a problem. Motorcycles, they're very difficult to see. The other thing, too, is that some of the motorcycle riders are pretty darn crazy. Here's an article from the Fosters, which is a local newspaper, where a cyclist, can you believe, was traveling 185 miles per hour. And this was just, I believe, right around, where was he? Nashua? Or near Concord, okay? That's pretty high. I can't tell you how long he's going to lose his license, but it's not going to be 20 days. It's going to be much, much longer, even though he's relatively young here. He's 31, so he's an adult. I thought he was a teenager. But they had to block down the exits because they're not going to chase after somebody. I believe that once you hit up around 90 miles per hour, the police don't do pursuits. They radio up ahead and try to block off areas that you're going to be traveling because they don't want other innocent, riders on the road, drivers on the road, to be affected by the high speed that the cruisers are going after this guy. Oh, I forgot to get the lane splitting. I didn't download the lane splitting. Let me explain something about motorcycles. Motorcycles that are caught into traffic have a tendency to go to breakdown lanes, and what lane splitting is, they go in between cars. That is illegal in New Hampshire. You cannot do that. You've got to stay in your designated lane like a car does and wait for your opportunity to get to where you're going. Just because you are very small, not very wide, you can't just filter through. And I wish I could have remembered to download the lane splitting video, because you would be surprised some of the craziness that people will try on motorcycles. Most of the motorcycle crashes are drivers that just don't pick up the cyclist. So it's about equal if we were to take a look at who's more at fault, is the driver or is the motorcycle rider. Some years it's going to be a little bit more one way or the other, but it's pretty much 50-50. But you have to understand that motorcycle riders have the same rights and responsibilities, meaning they got to stop at stop signs. They can't roll through, just like a bicycle can't roll through. Got to do your traffic lights, got to pass when it's legal. You don't make your own rules. But cars have to share the road, and don't get too angry with motorcycle riders. Don't try to, creep into their space. But the problem with a driver, though, is that if we're preoccupied, a little bit distracted, it is difficult to see something that's only 2 feet wide. It's very easy to be hidden in the driving scene, especially in the summertime. So it's hard to judge their speed, and it's very hard to see where they're coming from. And when you're following a motorcycle, you should also understand that they can stop a lot quicker than you because they've got better use of their front brake and rear brake, and they're a lot lighter. So anything that's lighter will stop a lot sooner. So if you are side by side with a motorcycle and you both applied your brakes at the same time, it's the motorcyclist that will stop before you do. So don't think you can be right behind him following just as fast as he's going down the road, because once he hits that brake, he will stop a lot quicker than you. Left turns. Left turns are a twofold problem. The driver fails to pick up the cyclist out of the traffic scene, or the drivers just don't judge the speed of the vehicle. Now, I'm going to show you a training video for motorcycle riders. Now, most of the training takes place on a protected parking lot where they teach techniques and skills, just like what we're doing in driver's ed. But this is a special advanced course where a person wants to get better at dealing with moving traffic. So I thought this was kind of cool. I had never seen this before. I found this about 6 months ago, and I believe it's in Pennsylvania, that a motorcycle instructor puts a mic and a headphone in his helmet, and he follows a newly licensed motorcyclist out on the road, and he critiques what he's doing in traffic, letting him know where he should position his bike at traffic lights where cars are going to be making left-hand turns. One thing you're going to see in the video is that he will always tell the rider to get away from the center line so people will have a better view of what he's doing. All right. So it's kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of cool. So that's why I wanted to show it to you. And then I'll show you a video about the motorcycle course that we offer.
Okay, let's get in the left lane. So let this truck go ahead. Yeah, leave lots of room.
Notice he's more to the left right now
so
because
truck up ahead.
He's going to be seen by the truck driver better.
Okay, shoulder check, good.
But notice the change of position because he's afraid of that large truck making a turn.
Back.
So he went way over to the far right. Now he's going back off to the left. So he'll be picked up in the side view mirror of the tractor trailer.
That move will save your life.
So once they get up to this next traffic light, you'll notice he'll go from this left of center. So he's not centered in the middle of his lane right now. He will go from the left of center. Now he's going to go way over to the right, just so he gets away from cars that could be turning left. And then he goes back to the left of center so people can see him better. So that's just a technique. This is the way that they're trying to train people to be better behind the handlebars of a motorcyclist.
Awesome. Perfect.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, the other thing you need to remember about motorcyclists is that their signals don't automatically turn off. Like in a car, when you make a turn, when you correct the wheel, it turns itself off. But in a motorcycle, they've got to do it manually. So never trust what you see for a directional on a motorcycle. Remember when we talked about what should you be looking for when someone makes a turn? You're looking to see, do they have their signal on? Yes. Have they changed their speed? Yes. Have they changed their position like we saw in that last video? Yes. Then you can trust the directional. So with motorcycles, they may have been left on. So you've got to be able to answer those other two questions. Have they changed their speed? Have they changed their position? So that's something to think about. Always think about that when you see a directional. Answer those other two questions. We already talked about following distance should be more because they stop a lot better. Don't move next to them. If they're changing lanes constantly, it's because they want you to look in your mirror to know that they're there. A lot of times they could be moving around something in the road that you just don't see. It could be a pothole. It could be debris. Now, let's talk about the areas that we don't think about as automobile drivers, but they do create more of a problem for motorcyclists, is bad weather. So fog, sleet, and people will be out in some cold temperatures. So don't think that you won't see motorcyclists in the wintertime. They're out there. They're just very bundled up, and they may not have a long distance to travel. But crosswinds will create problems. The road surface, meaning bumps in the road, frost eaves, railroad crossings, and of course bridges that have metal grates, have grooves. That's going to create a problem. So let's talk about the motorcycle safety course. They're going to start offering this back in up again in April. So right now you can't get your motorcycle license after you get your operator's license. You're going to have to wait till springtime. They have two different courses. They have a novice program and an experienced rider's course. Make sure you sign up for the one that's most suited for you. So if you've got a lot of experience with a motorcycle, you might be able to skip the novice and go right to the experienced one. Now, the nice thing about taking the DMV-sponsored motorcycle class is that it's not as long as driver's ed. It's usually just in a weekend, and they do testing for your license to be a motorcycle rider. So they actually do a designation on your license. You don't have to go to the DMV. They do everything right at the testing site, the motorcycle class. Now, if you skip the motorcycle class, then you will have to go to the DMV like on Friday afternoon or Saturdays. I think sometimes they'll set up the parking lot. And what you'll see in this video is that they just see how you maneuver the vehicle by accelerating from a stop sign, coming to a stop, making some turns, making some quick turns. How do you balance the motorcycle? And they do have a classroom portion where you learn about technique and about how motorcycles act and react out on the roadway. So it's really like driver's ed for motorcycles. So let's take a look at the motorcycle class.
We really had fun taking the class. It was something that my husband and I did together, which made it even more special.
I thought, boy, this is going to be, why am I going to go do this? I've been riding so long, there's nothing I can, what are they going to teach me or what are they going to show me? And I was very shocked when I actually took it, and I learned quite a bit from that.
We got the club together and filled up a class, and in varying level of experience from people who've been riding 30 and 40 years. And every one of them, when we got done with the class, was worthwhile.
For my family, the very first step of getting into motorcycling was signing up for the motorcycle safety course. Because even before we went out to invest money in buying a motorcycle, it was important for us to learn the intricacies of riding the bike, and you certainly want to be prepared for the road risks.
Since taking that course and learning at least that one technique alone, it's probably saved my life at least 15 times.
I think that there's just as much value in the classroom as there was as physically being on the bike. So when you go out and you get on the bike, all that mental stuff is already in there.
The instructors were very friendly, and They didn't make you feel uncomfortable or weird that you hadn't ridden before. They just eased you right into it. They have you just kind of walking the bikes along as they're on, and you start going around in circles, then you progress into weaving in and out between cones.
And the instructor stood in front of the cones, and at the last moment he would point left or right, and you had to do like an evasive move. It was just that last split second which way to turn, and if you make a mistake, then you learn from it.
He actually threw it was a piece of block on the ground, like a 2x4, and you actually, instead of going around it, go right through it. It just teaches you that if something's on the road and you're going like 55, 60, there's no sense of trying to go around it. You can't, because you ain't gonna have time to look left and right. Just go right straight through it.
You're constantly scanning ahead, and that's one of the things they teach you in the course. You are looking at the car in front of you, but you're actually looking further down. You're watching those intersections on your side. You know, and these are some of the things that that I never thought about, but the course talked about.
And all of a sudden, I start pulling around the curve, and another guy comes straight over. And if I would not have been aware, and again, this came from the course of being aware of everything that's happening around you, and I was able to stop. But if I'd have kept going, I would probably be a hood ornament at this point.
The maneuvering technique I did learn from the course did help me last year with the accident that I was in, that someone pulled out in front of me. And I was able to maneuver the bike to get around mostly, but the bike did clip the bumper a little bit. But still, I was able to get out unscratched and still walk away.
We're going through a small town, going 30 miles an hour, put my signal on to slow down, to stop, and the bike behind me slammed into me. The first thing I felt was this jerk, and then I heard the instructor's voice saying, "Hold on, keep the front tires straight, slowly apply your brakes, both the front and the rear brakes slowly, and bring the bike to a slow stop." And that's exactly what happened.
You think you know about bikes, but you do not know about bikes until you take the safety course. You do not know about all the different things that can come at you. You don't pay attention to that when you're just riding without the knowledge. So it can definitely save your life. It's a lifetime lesson that costs nothing.
It's amazing how many people, once they get their operator's license to drive a vehicle, think, oh, I want to get my motorcycle license. And then they never think about taking another training class to help them out on the roadway. And more than even learning to drive a car, when you get into a crash with a motorcycle, you basically lose. You do not want to put that bike down. You do not want to get hit on a bike. So anything that you can do to become more skilled as a rider is definitely to your benefit. And just the comment that she made at the end when she said the instructor told us to use our front brake and then rear brake. If you do not know how to brake correctly on a motorcycle, you're going to go right over the handlebars, or you're going to hit something and it's going to hurt, and you're going to damage the vehicle, damage the bike quite a bit. I just want to touch on real quickly a couple things about bike safety and pedestrian safety, because they included this in the state manual. I will test you on this, and there will be a question on pedestrians too, that Durham is getting to be more of a bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly town, where they're marking their crosswalks better and creating bike lanes and being more aware of bicyclists. And by the way, we did have a death in Durham where someone did not check their side view mirror before they opened up the car door in downtown Durham, and a bicyclist was hit by that door and flew off his bike and had trauma that caused him to lose his life. So even in the little town of Durham here, we've got issues. So we have to be aware. So when passing a bike, it's the driver's responsibility to take every step necessary to give enough distance to make the bicyclist feel safe. So what I want you to underline in your manual, or write this down in your notes, is that you should give at least 3 feet of a berth, or what they call a width, at 30 miles per hour passing a bike. And for every 10 miles above that, you're giving an additional foot. And it's very difficult when you drive to know how close you are on the right side of the vehicle. It takes some skill and some practice to really know about your position on the road. A lot of people don't realize how close they get to the white line, or how close they get to parked cars or bicyclists. But my philosophy is, when they say 3 feet at 30, give them more if you can. As long as you don't have oncoming cars coming towards you, get far away from a bicyclist. More is better. What we're dealing with right here is the minimum. Now, if there is no room because there's a car coming, then you're going to have to wait for the car to go by and then go around the cyclist. And that's called separating. Now, if you go over a hill or around a corner and all of a sudden here comes a car and there's a bike right there, or a person that's jogging, you want to split the difference, and that's called compromise. Compromising is where you're giving two potential problems, so the bicyclist and the oncoming car, you're giving them both 3 feet. 3 feet for the oncoming car, 3 feet for the bicyclist. Whereas if the car wasn't there, then you could go way over the yellow line, give 4 or 5 feet to the bicyclist because there wasn't a car coming towards you. So compromise is splitting the difference. Separating is when you're stopping and waiting. Bicycles need to, just like motorcyclists, obey the rules, signal their turns. So you should be familiar with your hand signals. If you're riding two abreast, keep within a single lane. Don't hold up traffic. Ride single file if two abreast impedes the flow. So two abreast means side by side. Never ride on a sidewalk. That's illegal in every single state. Okay, you cannot ride your bike on a sidewalk, whereas we see it happening all the time, especially with young kids. Never grab hold of another vehicle to get pulled. Bicyclists should yield the right of way when there's a pedestrian around. Never carry a passenger unless there's a seat that will hold both the rider and the passenger. Don't carry anything that's going to interfere with control of the bicycle. And remember that bikes go in the same direction. When we talked about HTS, we learned that anything with wheels goes in the same direction as an automobile. People that run, walk, jog, they're facing traffic. Bikes need reflectors. If there's anything here, head equipment is for those that are under 16. So now that you're 16, it's up to you whether you want to use a bike helmet or not. I would still say it's probably a wise thing to do. And by the way, right above that, it says an officer can inspect your bike. And the other thing too, an officer can actually give you a ticket. Bicycles follow traffic law. So if you are breaking a traffic law on your bicycle, technically they can give you a ticket. Think about it. If you're making a car stop at a four-way stop, why would you let a bicycle just go right through? A bicycle has no airbags, has no metal around it, has no protection at all. And bikes break stop sign laws and traffic light laws all the time. It bewilders me. I don't understand why we let that happen. And bicycles have to have at least one item of reflective clothing, a vest, jacket, or helmet strip, a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise. So the same time frame that you put your headlights on, you need your headlights on a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise. So that's the time that you're having this reflective equipment on. Pedestrian safety. Look for your yellow signs. Remember, they're neon yellow, indicating that there's pedestrian crossing or school crossing. They have the right of way all the time when they're on a crosswalk. If they're jaywalking, it's another story. Then it's up to you whether you want to be nice and let them cross the road. Anybody that's blind, of course, they need our help. They're the ones with the cane, the white cane with the red tip, or the guide dog trying to cross the road. So we're trying to pick that up and make their journey across the road a little bit safer, a little bit easier. And the only thing I want you to remember about blind people is the last sentence. A person who is blind listens to hear that the vehicle has stopped. Now, the problem that we're having now with blind people and knowing that cars have stopped is that hybrids and even some gas-powered cars now, when you come to a stop, the engine turns off and you're just running on battery. So it's very hard for a blind person or someone with a guide dog to really understand if there's traffic there. So, be a little bit patient if they don't cross right off, because they're truly trying to sense whether there's a car there. And how far should you be away from a blind person that's crossing? Give them at least 10 feet. Okay, 10 feet is going to be far enough that they'll probably hear the car, but it's also going to make them feel a little bit more comfortable, because if it's too close, they could be walking right towards the front hood of your car. What should pedestrians do? They should use crosswalks. They should always look both ways before crossing. They should walk, as we said, on the left side facing traffic. They should obey the walk and do not walk signals. Now remember, we cannot turn right on red, even though there's no pedestrians around, with a walk signal or a countdown. We have to wait for that solid hand. So as a driver, don't get too impatient. Remember what the law is. Only when there's a solid hand. Okay, don't do it with the flashing. Don't do it with the countdown. At night, pedestrians should have something that stands out. A light-colored clothing or reflective clothing. And on a highway that's limited access, be extremely careful if you have to walk. Now, you may be walking to the next exit to get gas or whatever, but I'd probably stay in my vehicle and make a phone call, because a lot of times there are people on the highway that are intoxicated. There are elderly people that don't see too well. So if they're going 55, 60, especially at dusk or at night, they may not see you near the edge of the road, because not all roads have a big wide breakdown lane. So it could get kind of crazy trying to walk to get help. So stay in your car. So let's see some pedestrian safety.
Hi, I'm Michelle Yeoh. As an actress, I've been in many dangerous situations on screen, but I always get to walk away. In real life, though, most people don't. So when you're walking near traffic, follow these safe steps and help save lives. Drivers and pedestrians share the responsibility of keeping themselves and others safe. Your eyes and ears are your best safety tools. Avoid using electronic devices that distract your attention. Stay on sidewalks. If there is no footpath, walk on the edge of the road facing oncoming traffic. At a road crossing, stop, look both ways, listen, and then cross. We all have a role in road safety. Follow these safe steps and play your part. For more road safety advice, visit safesteps.com.
They're really putting out some of these safety videos and having safety classes for kids in elementary school and junior high to give them a better understanding of their responsibility. Because as you get older, your parents are giving you a little bit more free reign to walk around town and do certain things. So watch out for certain locations where kids could be walking around, especially after school. Beware of people that may be distracted with headphones on, looking at their phone, especially college kids. It's really, really bad where they'll be walking around looking at their phone and not paying attention. The move over law is in every state. I want you to write this down. This is something that I want you to know. The move over law means that when you see a police officer or an EMT or a fire truck, you need to get as far away from where they're working on the side of the road. So if there's 2 lanes, go from the right lane to the left. If there are too many people in the left lane, get as close to the left lane as you possibly can. So you may not be able to leave your lane entirely, but you may be able to give enough room. Now, the video that I'm going to show, the little commercial clip, shows you a police officer that's hit by somebody that doesn't move over. So it's a little violent.
Every year, thousands of law enforcement officers are injured or killed by passing vehicles on our nation's roads and highways. These tragedies don't have to happen. Whenever an emergency vehicle has its lights on, move over away from the emergency vehicle. If you can't change lanes because of traffic, or if you're traveling on a 2-lane road, slow down at least 20 miles per hour below the posted speed limit.
Help protect the officers who protect you. Please move over, and if you can't, then slow down. It's the law.
So go slower. Okay, when you see that there's an emergency vehicle off to the side of the road, go slower. If there's an officer outside of the vehicle, he may be directing traffic, so obey their signals or control devices. They may be holding up a stop sign or a slow sign to indicate that they want you to do something. And as I said earlier, get away. Vacate means to leave. Wholly means go to a different lane. If it's partially blocked, then you're sharing the lane with the emergency vehicle. So try to give them as much space as possible. So that's kind of a quick rundown. Let's see if there's... Okay, we're going to talk about distracted driving tomorrow. So we'll get into that. Let me get up to the top here. Okay. What I want you to do with the remainder of the time, because I don't have a worksheet or questions for you to do, there is no reading for you to do. I am going to post on our Facebook page review questions. And that is going to be your study guide. Okay, I've gone through the manual. I've gone through some of the content that we've had, and I have made a video of questions, okay, that could come up on the final. So I want you to watch it. I want you to answer the question. So what I would recommend you doing is to start and stop it. I'll put up a question. I'll read it. And then I want you to pause it. I want you to try to answer it on your own. It's not multiple choice. And then hit play again, and it will give you the real answer within like 3-4 seconds. And I think I've done like 70 questions. So that's going to be helpful to you to study for the final. I still need a lot of work from a lot of people. So make sure your homework in, but I need the textbook. So this shouldn't have gone to the very last thing, but I'm going to have to collect the textbook sometime tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday, because I have a bigger class and I need every single one. So you're going to have to hand it in. If you still have outstanding homework, then I'm going to have to give you an old, outdated textbook, and you're going to have to deal with that. Or I'm going to have to make digital copies, and I'll give you the digital copy. So, or make a copy if you're going to get to it a little bit later. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to hand you off to the Facebook page in just a moment, and then you could do the review questions and let me know how well that you did. So just say, I got, 60 out of 70. It just gives me some idea of what your knowledge base is. Remember last night I sent out a link to some of you. Not everybody answered some of those questions, so those are things that I need. So try to get everything into me if you can. And tomorrow night we're going to talk about distracted driving for the first part. I also forgot to show a thing on wildlife about dealing with wildlife out there on the road. Roadkill is a serious problem, hitting animals at night. So we're going to just probably do about 40 minutes or so of content tomorrow, and then I'll hand you off to the final if you've got everything into me. If not, then I'll withhold the final, and you'll have to do it some other time. So you'll get the content tomorrow, and then you'll have to do the final sometime later. So that's it for tonight. Go to the Facebook page in about 5 minutes, and I'll have the video lined up. So thanks for signing in. I think there's most of you still on, so that's good. We'll see you tomorrow night, and I'll be driving with a few of you tomorrow, so we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.